to the beauty of a stranger's face and soul, to the amazing happenings and capabilities within the span of a single moment. Her appreciation of the small things in life is both inspiring and contagious, and knowing her and reading her work has made me more conscious as both a person and a writer, and I'm honored to have been able to learn alongside her. Ladies and gentlemen, morning.
I'm reading from a piece called Intent. Their windows were blacked out. Newspapers, tinfoil, melty wax paper, and stolen street signs were all you could see from outside. Once indoors, there were blankets suspended by thumbtacks on all window-sided walls. The rest of the room was still covered with shell white the proprietor decided on when the house was first built. When Gus first opened the door, he didn't recognize me. I wish that I didn't recognize him. Nothing on him seemed to work. His eyes didn't look, his nose didn't smell, his lips only curled into a thin line, more so just another vein than an actual pair of lips. Gus wouldn't move when I asked him how he'd been. He only sat on the couch. He only repeated, "The couch is fine, the couch is fine. Don't worry, the couch is fine." He scratched his inner wrist while I looked around, trying to find a sign that he'd eaten a meal in the last few days, aside from the Snicker bar wrappers working as an avant-garde carpet. In ancient Egypt, black was known both as a symbol of death and the spirit of the night, but also represented life and renewal as well. Queen Nefertiti, one of the rare deified living souls, was the patroness of the necropolis, usually painted as having starless night sky skin to honor her allegiance to the Black Land. Her role was an important one. Mother represented the true keeper of royalty, the protector of purity within the kingdom. She was the royal daughter, royal sister, the great royal wife, royal mother, great ruler, and the mistress of both lands, living and dead. For she functioned in Egypt just like the color black, bearing a warning of what can go infinitely wrong, but also the possibility of resurrection. Just like the infamous annual floods of the Nile, where the murky water, stained with mournful black silt, rippled onto the shore, that by the end of the flood season, the ground would be covered in these inky black settlings. And it is only through the mournful tears of Isis, lamenting the death of her only love, that life would be able to grow from the wild muck. I often wonder about the brazen life, those spaces, objects, or ideas that slide between definition, hiding in the crevices until knowledge becomes lulled into accepting the unexplained. The last time I saw his eyes, they were like two hiding male cardinals, forcing me to wonder what all that red and ice were doing to his gray matter. Had the smoke turned it into a spectral white, or had the ice cooled it below a livable temperature? If I get him a new wool cap, will it help him, if only just for a little while? The coffee maker mumbled to itself from the northeast corner of the room. When I asked Gus about the street signs in his window, whether it was him or his other 3 roommates who lifted them, he explained there was only one he stole, the one that read, Shady Lane. It was the block his dealer lived on. He didn't get why both me and the coffee maker were laughing. Meth addicts don't have a keen sense of irony. The White Cloud sect of ancient China, led by Cheng Chu, was named after their retreat in Hangzhou, which had rocky cliffs immersed in a tumbling, dense, foggy cloud. Their writings display a clear description of how salvation can come through a rebirth after death, how all levels of reality are interwoven through the absolute mind. Gus and I spent every Thursday afternoon together, after we were both done with our chemistry lab that we shared, in a class of about 75 students. I knew him from our dorm room, because he shared the same floor as me, Dobson Hall, noticing his metal band t-shirts with an intrigued eyebrow. I was still incredibly shy, usually turning a shade of roasted beet when anyone tried to get me to talk about myself. Somehow we sat near each other and noticed everyone else seemed to be either from Missouri, had blonde hair, or spoke too excitedly about how excited they were to be at Truman State. I suppose it was that skepticism that brought us together, not knowing how long we could make it here without somehow giving up, so we became friends. Ancient Greeks were known to wear white in order to have pleasant dreams. We both doubled over, gasping for breath when I saw where he was pointing to. There was what seemed to be thousands of rows of cut-down corn stalks. I imagined every little seed finding the perfect spot for sun and water and their own cozy corner of soil to claim as their own. They spiraled out from a small pond in the center of his property. Each row was precisely snapped in half by the combine, Gus explained. That way next year they wouldn't grow any differently. They'll do what they're supposed to, he said, just like good little domesticated plants should be. Ancient Egyptians wore white sandals at holy ceremonies, as white was the color of purity and blessedness. Here's what I wanted. Find him stealing. Finally have a direct confrontation. Open up. Show my anger. Lots of yelling, lots of crying. Somehow the student advisors aren't come to check on us so we can keep yelling and keep fighting. So we keep going, and eventually he will break down after I explain how much it hurts for him to do this directly to me. How often his mom will call when he isn't there anymore. How often I have to tell white lies for him to professors and friends. How often I miss him when it is just me. He quits, I forgive, he forgives, and I can stop writing about this. Here's what I got. I watched his hands morph into undecipherable claws, thick with red scabs and valleys, a topographic map of self-abuse. He would often wear fingerless gloves in an attempt to try and hide the damaged tissues. For 3 weeks out of the year in Norway, the midnight sun illuminates that sliver of the world all 24 hours every day. There is also a phenomenon called polar night, which offers only total darkness during the day, as a demure sun hides beneath the horizon. The effect these miracles of nature have on individuals varies, leaving some to suffer insomnolence, irritability, and hypomania, while others can remain unscathed. Some also suffer vivid nightmares, unexplainable cravings. Myths exclaim that this period of time is a sort of possession, where lost souls become disoriented by the white night, forcing themselves deep within a human body until they can see a way out of the light. To me, writing is one of the most available mediums that allows people to share their obsessions with one another in confidence. Whether it was an Epicurean feast, Melville's nautical journeyman, Hemingway's Kilimanjaro, Stephen King's Haunting, Maggie Nelson's Blues, Joan Didion's California, John D'Agata's Mountains. E.J. Greenwell also shares her obsessions on the page. Herself, her likes and dislikes, no matter how menial they may seem, they become larger. Her love and hate blossom. Her askings are historic, but ever important, such as why, reaching into a topic, wrestling it until it is laid out, flat and exposed for the entire world to see. So here's E.J. Greenwell.
I really hope I can see. Okay. This is an excerpt from a piece I wrote in memoir class a couple semesters ago about my obsessions, as Maureen said. And there are 2 sections. The first one is food. Athens, Greece. Sure, it was pretty there, but I was frickin' starving. Breakfast at the hotel had been an assortment of pastries I did not know and therefore would not try. I had been absolutely horrified by the lack of the presence of just plain bread and butter. Everyone else was excited to try Greek food, but that had been my biggest problem coming here. Mom and I had packed a box of Cheerios into my suitcase and a container of Skippy peanut butter so that I wouldn't starve. But I was stupid enough to forget to grab some Cheerios that morning, thinking maybe there might be something I would eat downstairs. Is a bagel with cream cheese too much to ask for? From what I've seen in the market, they have plenty of bagel chips, so where the hell were all the bagels? We've been following the tour guide all morning and the start of the afternoon when finally we broke for lunch. Instead of dragging us all to a restaurant, which I no doubt would not